And after I broke my neck and was never supposed to move, Jeannie, I was not supposed to ever walk, or I was never supposed to move. They didn't think I'd move anything from my shoulders down. But I never gave up. I didn't quit.
Welcome to Project Candor, where ordinary people share unexpected stories. I'm your host, Jeannie Anderson, and today's guest has lived the kind of life that most of us barely imagine. Jay Setchell was born and raised on a working farm where nothing worthwhile ever came free. You worked for it, plain and simple. That early foundation shaped everything that followed. Jay went on to serve as a Marine, build businesses as an entrepreneur, and navigate a life filled with extraordinary challenges and extraordinary resilience. He has faced physical battles most of us will never know, and he has come out the other side, not just surviving, but fully engaged in living. Today, Jay coaches others, leads with faith, and carries a simple but powerful truth he's held onto for decades. It's always too soon to quit. Jay, hello. Welcome to Project Candor. I'm so glad you joined us.
I'm glad to be here. We've been working on this, so I'm glad to have that smile on the other side.
Well, that's just great. I'm really glad you're here. So here's how we go. I'm going to start with questions. And then at the end, we'll stop and we'll play our signature game, Two Truths and a Lie with you. And then we'll wrap it up. So Are you ready to go with the questions?
You're the boss. Go for it.
Okay. Question 1.
Uh-oh.
Jay, I hear you're a farm boy at heart. So take me back there for a minute. What did mornings look like? Were you up before the sun with a list of chores, or were you the kid who couldn't wait to get outside and check on a favorite animal? Paint us that picture.
Well, I think the chores and the favorite animal were kind of the same thing in a way. But no, yep, we got up. If you weren't up by dark, I mean, you were always up before sunup because we had a lot of cattle, and if you weren't, well, you just had to be, or they'd be mooing and they'd wake you up. But no, I enjoyed getting up and starting about 5 years old. I was going down in the basement and mixing up powdered milk with warm water in a bucket and a nipple pail to feed calves and stuff. And, and then you drag the buckets, depending on how many you had through the snow in the winter or through the tall grass in the summer. And, it was part of what you did. And then you helped your dad, or I helped my dad or my grandfather with the other cattle. But it was all, it was pulling weeds. It was, what they called walking beans, which you chop out corn from the previous year. But it was, or painting buildings, cribs. You're always busy. You're always doing something, learning how to get on the equipment. By the time I was 9, I was out of school in the spring and in the fall helping put crops in, take crops out. And it was a lot of, you learned a sense of urgency and you learned a lot of responsibility. And I think that's, and it was just, my dad told me one time, he said, I don't ever want to have to tell you to do anything. I just want to suggest it. So if he ever said like, it kind of looks like the weeds around the cattle lot fence need to be pulled. Okay. But he only ever had to tell me that once. And if I saw them after that, I understood he doesn't need to tell me again, but I enjoyed it. You saw the cycle of life. You understood the weather. You understood community, helping each other up and down the road. Farmers helped farmers. We lived about 4 miles out of a small farm town, but you were involved. It was people help people back in those days. Today, you don't know the person that lives across the street from you or next to you.
Exactly.
It's pretty sad, but so I learned a lot. I think it gave me a extremely good foundation of always trying, never quitting, and there was always something to be done.
Well, at a young age, there was a lot of things dependent on you, just like you said. Everything has to be done at a time, and it's almost like people don't understand how project managed a farm has to be, because you have to plant a certain time of the year. You have to judge whether that time is ready or not, like by the weather. Your animals have to eat, like you have to eat. You can't just leave them out there for days and not feed them. So,
Well,
what kind of animals did you have?
mostly cattle. We had hogs 3 or 4 different times. We'd have, a couple hundred head of hogs that were in with the cattle. But the cattle, we would feed about 1,200 head a year. So that was quite a few.
Ooh, that's a
Like
lot.
600 takes about 6 months, and then another 600. So it wasn't exactly every 6 months. And we had enough chickens. Um, that when I was about 5, I started also picking up eggs at nighttime with the old wire baskets you carry the eggs in, and I'd have to make several trips, and the cases of eggs held 30 dozen, so I had to sort the brown ones from the white ones, and the double yolkers went over here, and if they were real dirty, you washed them off, but there weren't very many that were dirty, and then my dad would take them into town to the candling plant. So it was just a job. I don't know. I never thought about it. It was just
Does it
part
what
of what
plant? Say that again.
what they call a candling plant. They run the eggs in front of candles, and they could see and make sure it wasn't a bred egg. It wasn't a.
Oh,
It
okay.
didn't have. It was all yolk. It was a regular egg that would go to market to be eaten.
I
So,
didn't
but
know they had a plant dedicated to do that. I,
well,
I
it was.
know people do it in their homes, but I guess if you have that much volume, you have to have somewhere to
Oh
go.
yeah, it was just a. But it wasn't much. It was just an old beat up building, and they did it. I don't remember except just riding to town with my dad to deliver the big cases of eggs. That was I that
That's
memory is
cool.
kind of a very faded memory. But
But it's
but
still interesting. I had never heard of that, a candling
yeah,
plant. I did not know it.
candling. Yep.
And 12,000 cattle,
No,
12,000,
1,200.
1,200.
Yep.
That's still a
Yep.
lot. How many
That
acres
was
did
a.
you have for that amount of
Well,
cattle?
it wasn't. You could actually. Well, we could fill the silos off of probably 30 acres of corn, 40 acres of corn. But we had a few hundred that we had, and then we leased. We rented from 2 old maid ladies about 1,200 acres. We had them. No, the two sisters married 2 brothers. The brothers died like a year apart from each other, and we rented their land for years, and I mean like 40 years.
Not their own brothers, right? They were
No,
two
they're
brothers
no
from one
just two
family and
other
two
brothers.
sisters. Okay,
Yep,
thank
two
God.
brothers married 2 sisters.
Okay.
But but it was it was cool. It was you were always learning something. And my dad started other businesses and was kind of a entrepreneur on the side. We did a lot of agricultural spraying with airplanes. Spraying crops and stuff. And then Del Monte, which has recently gone bankrupt, but Del Monte
Cool.
back in the day, they had sweet corn and green beans and lima beans and sweet peas and all that, and you sprayed it for either bugs or whatever. And so it was always something. There was always something to do. And then when I was in high school, I worked starting when I was a sophomore. School got out at quarter to 4, and I started working in a small agriculture factory that made grain dryers and pickup reels for combines to harvest wheat and soybeans and such. And I worked till 12:30 at night, and I got home about and ended bed about 1. Got back up at 5:30 in the morning to help my dad with his chores. And because if I didn't help him with his chores and do my own, then he would charge me at night to do mine because nothing's for free. It's his
Oh,
time.
wow.
Time is money, and money is time. But that's what I'm saying. You learn to. I never took offense to it. It was like, okay, good enough. You
Yeah, I
know.
like that. So you are a farm boy at heart. I get that. So
Oh,
how
I
does
love it.
that farm boy show up in your life today? Because you're doing a lot of other stuff.
I think if nothing else, it takes me back to the realization of an appreciation for weather, soil. Um, it gives you a sense of uh, what's the words I want to say. The the life cycle, because like you mentioned
Mm.
before, there's a time to plant, there's a time to take care of the crops, to cultivate them, there's a time to harvest them, and it's kind of like I'm in the early winter of my life. I have to look at it like that. One of these days I won't be here anymore, and you know either by accidents, which I've been through, and or by just dying, and so it I don't know, but it's still there. It's just like I can remember walking the fields and grabbing the soil and smelling that soil. And you can tell if soil's got kind of a sweet odor to it, if you will, and once it's sour. It's just not an odor. Well, it is an odor because if it hasn't rained for quite a while, as the rain comes across the fields, you can smell the dirt. You can smell the soil. And it's nice to you watch stuff grow. You're able to see that seed that went in the ground is now 1,000 acres of corn, or
Yeah, that's so
whatever. It's
cool.
just, and it's very, I don't know. It just it gives you an anticipation of the future. It gives you belief in what's going to happen, and you have to have the faith that things are going to turn out. So I think you develop a lot of other instincts. And I'm not saying everybody does, you know, but
Right. Well, I get excited over my little basil plants and my chives. I'm going out there. Oh, I'm going to water you now and just talk to
oh,
them. I don't
talk
know,
to
kind of crazy. But I grew up in a farm area. I was not on a farm, but I have an appreciation for the way they were hard workers. And also, you're talking about soil smelling. If you've been around tobacco, and it's I know I say that wrong. I say it the southern way, tobacco.
it's back.
If you've been around tobacco barns when they're curing tobacco, what a smell! That aroma is so nice.
Yeah,
Don't
I
want to
remember.
smoke it, but it smells
Yeah,
great.
we never hit raised to any of that stuff like that. But I remember when I had my trucking company, going by and being able to off some side road, seeing the drying barns out there with all the tobacco hanging and stuff, and yeah, it was interesting. But I don't remember smelling it. Not like alfalfa or driving by a hayfield that's been freshly cut. That
Oh,
has a
that has a smell too. Yes, I
oh,
know.
very sweet. It's clover, and it smells very sweet. Very, yeah,
Very
yeah,
nice. Yeah, so I mean, people just need to just understand that all of this nature around us is got a purpose, and that
yep.
the people that actually are cultivating the food and the animals, the milk, whatever I don't know if you used your cattle for beef, but if you just use it for milk, I mean, there's somebody out there working really hard to give you what you want, and we can't be spoiled about
Yeah.
it.
There are. We were beef cattle only. The calves that I raised came from a cousin that had milk cattle. Well, when you
Mm,
got a little bull born, obviously you can't milk it, so I would buy it, and I started out with they were $2 a piece. I got them at like when they were a week old, and they were $2 a piece. And I remember when they went to $5 a piece when I was about 8, and but like you say, there's a lot of work involved with it, no matter
mm,
what you're doing,
definitely.
and I did something in my book. I looked back, and in 1950, I think it was, there were, well, from 1950 to 1960 or 65, something like that, there were 2.5 million less people working farms than there were the decade or decade and a half before. And we used to farm about 3.5 million acres, if I recall the book, recall my research, and now we're down to like less than 1 million acres.
Oh,
It's
wow.
crazy. It's crazy, and we're producing more, but there's got to be a limit. And
Right.
and unfortunately, it's like where I was raised. It was like, or you mentioned tobacco, tobacco farms.
I got you saying it now.
uh, Tobacco farms weren't very big. They were on 20 acres or 30 acres or 40 acres because a lot of it was done by hand, and if not a lot, most of it. And um, where I was at, the nearest farm was a mile away, and then the next one was a mile after that, and maybe a mile, 2.5 miles, or maybe one in the middle, and and then another mile. And the thing is that those farms don't exist anymore. They're
Right.
gone. the houses are gone, the homesteads are gone, the people are gone, and it really and part of it is big ag, Monsanto and all the problems they've brought into the world, ADM and whatnot. But it's also farmers wanted to get bigger, but they don't realize that getting so big, you drive everybody else out of business. And and some people
Right.
enjoyed the life. Not just was it a life, but it was a way of life. But that hurts the small towns because you don't have the cafes open anymore. Now the gas stations are gone. You got a McDonald's over here in a small town of 4,000 people, because it used to have 5 or 6 cafes that the farmers would go to have a cup of coffee or chat about what the crops were doing and the weather and whatnot. And town people would go there too. But so it killed more than just the farm life. It also damaged the cities and the
Yes,
towns.
it did. It did. The town I grew up in is just really dwindling down to nothing,
There,
and it's
well, there you
sad,
go.
very sad.
Yeah.
And it's so funny when you talk. You said you planted corn and stuff. It's a lot of the farm people had their own. They sustained themselves by their crops, plus having gardens, and so
Oh,
canning
yeah.
tomatoes and freezing corn and things. And if you look at it now, if I could, I was so ready to get away from the farm lifestyle, but the fact if you could go to the store and buy a can of corn or somebody that froze corn from fresh corn, oh, I would just grab that bag of frozen corn that they put up. That tasted so much better. So we've
Frozen
lost
corn was
something big.
Yeah, frozen corn was pretty good, but yeah, we did what you called it canning.
Hmm.
Where you put in the jars, and we had a root cellar, and in our basement, I mean, we had a wall that was covered with it. I mean, you grew everything in the garden, and
Right.
spraying the stuff we did for Del Monte, we always knew which fields were going to be harvested, so we would just and the plant was only 3 miles away, so you just went over and pick up 50 pounds of sweet peas if you want. You went home and you canned them. You rinsed them off and whatever. But we canned our own chicken, our own pork, our own beef. So we were not dependent upon the stores except for
Hmm.
maybe sugar, salt and pepper. You know, the basics, some basics. Um, Otherwise, you kind of lived on the land. And I remember talking to my grandmother when I was in my teens and asking her about what they thought about the depression. She said, it didn't really bother us because we didn't live. We lived very frugally to begin with. We always ate what we grew. We grew what we ate. You know, asparagus or elderberries, if you've ever heard of them. I mean,
Yeah.
they grew wild alongside the road. You just went and picked them, and you made them into jelly or elderberry wine or it was just it was an easy way of life. It wasn't an easy way of life. It was a hard way of life, but it was an easy way to stay connected, as you mentioned before, to nature and,
Right.
and, and to live healthy.
You had to mention elderberries, I have to say. My husband's from Sweden, born and raised, and he said they used to go across and pick elder flowers and make a soft, is what they called of it, which is a drink, which it tastes like flowers to me. I
It
don't
does.
like it, but I mean that they would go across and pick blueberries and pick mushrooms, which I'd be terrified that I'd pick something bad, but yeah, that was his way of life too. So it's sad that it's going away. But we
Yeah.
got more to cover, so I'll just go to
Go
my
for it.
next.
Go for it.
I'll go to my next question because I could talk
Yes,
about
ma'am.
this all day. You've been through 73 surgeries multiple
Hmm.
times. You've come face to face with death. Did it take all of that, the surgeries, the pain, the losses, before you finally heard what your life was trying to tell you?
Wow. Uh, I Yes and no. I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I've never even thought about that. I I don't. No, I just know I believe that I was meant to succeed. I believe that God's got me here to live and to share and to help. And I've learned that. I know that what it did till I broke my neck when I was 31 and drowned and was paralyzed, never supposed to move again, which I, that's another story. Um, but I think a lot of it, I just bowled ahead. It was just I'm charged ahead. Go for it. Don't stop. And in the Marine Corps, it's kind of like I was torn up real bad, and that's I died from the injuries, and they got me back. Same as with the car accident in '73 with the drunk driver. But a lot of that, I use this term, sweat dries, blood clots, and broken bones heal. So you heal from that. But when someone's and I had a very bad TBI, um, and then later, of course, spinal cord injury. But it's if you have something people can't see, like a stroke, a TBI, spinal cord injury. Those are things that are inside your body that you can't see at all. So my third degree burns, yeah, they don't look good. They used to look worse, but it will heal your broken bones. If you ever had a broken hand or an arm or a collarbone, it healed. Or if you cut yourself a little bit, you get a scab on it, and pretty soon the scab, if falls off, or you rub it off, and well, you got skin again. So God did a lot of miracles with us to let our bodies heal themselves, or a lot of it. Now, your brain will not regenerate, or spinal cord doesn't regenerate. At least that's what I've always been told and heard, and that seems like that's the fact. So, you know, I, I don't know. I just keep pushing ahead. I think that God's got me here for a purpose. I don't know what I've identified that purpose a little more over the last few years, and that's just to help people. And I've always enjoyed that. I like to reach out. That's the way I was raised. I watched this. If your neighbors were sick, you took them a pot of stew and some, I don't know, peach cobbler and some cornbread
Ooh,
or something.
sounds good.
Oh, it does sound good, doesn't it? And but you took enough for a couple of days worth of food, or if they were injured, you helped bring their crops in, and so that was a purpose, and I think that that's where I got a lot of that was, you know, we had some pretty good sized snow removal equipment, and so maybe our neighbors didn't, and if we could get to their farm, we would help clear out some of the snow for them, and it was just helping. So I just that's been my whole life. I think a lot of it, and that's why I look at the all the stuff that I did on the farm, Jeannie. That it always, whenever you completed something, you had you had something that was completed. I don't know what
Hmm.
other word I can use. You finished a task, if you will, and so as you move through life, the more you do, the more you accomplish. The more you accomplish, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more you do. And it's just kind of like a cycle of life, I guess. And so I've enjoyed it. I mean, but I don't know that anything really taught me other than just doing. And as long as if you're breathing, you should be moving. If you're moving, you should be accomplishing something or trying to do something.
Yeah, that sounds great. You reminded me a lot when I read your story about Winston Churchill, who said, "Never, never, 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 never,
Yep.
never, never, never give up."
I've used that. I've used that in a talk once. Yeah, he said, we will never give up. They can fight us, we'll fight them in the air, we'll fight them in the sea, we'll fight them on the streets, but we will never give up. And
Yeah,
that's true. It's a you know he
you've never
was
given up. I can't.
well. It's to, to give up is to give in, and I'm not. That's not me. I'm not going to do it. And you have to have that. We used to call it attitude. Now they call it mindset. But if you have that attitude and the willingness and the want, and this is our strongest muscle up here, it's like I don't feel I'm disabled. I'm differently abled, but you and I have more in common than just my paralysis. It's a There's an old saying that, it's your attitude, not your aptitude, that controls your altitude. So,
Oh, yes.
and it's been around for years, but it's true. And you can decide if you want to do something and you set your mind to it. It's mind over matter. Or another old saying you probably heard is, if there's a will, there's a way.
Right.
But you got to be willing to do it. That's the problem. When somebody tells me something, Jeannie, they can't do something, no, they can do it. It just means, to me, if they say they can't, that means they won't. You know,
Right. Right.
does it make
I
sense?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, because you can do it. It's just a matter of time and effort, and
Yeah.
you can
So ask
accomplish
me if I want to hike the Appalachian Trail. I can't.
it. Yeah.
Which really means I don't want to.
No, not. I have no interest in that either. No, no, not at all.
I had a great guest though on that did do that, but I mean, I was in awe of him, but I don't want to do it.
No, no,
So I have
not.
another question. So
Yes, ma'am.
most people won't ask a paralyzed person about grief because they're afraid of the answer. But loss is real, and even when someone is as strong as you clearly are, is there something you've had to genuinely mourn, something you lost you don't talk about much, and have you actually made peace with it?
I yes, and I don't think I've made peace with it. I'll never make peace with it, and that's the loss of my legs, the loss of my ability to get up and go and move and walk, and I don't care about running. I don't, if I could just walk, if I could just get up and go instead of worrying about the wheelchair and making sure that I can get over the threshold, or okay, I get to a place I can't get in the house, or I can't get over that because if it's over about 2 inches, 2.5 inches, I need a ramp, or I take a,
Mm.
a folding aluminum ramp, and most people come up and, oh yeah, okay, come on upstairs, let's come up here and we'll take a look at this, what we're, my art studio or whatever they've got. I don't know, my bedroom, and you know, you can't do that. So I I don't think about it, but I was asked a question here recently that if Jesus was another podcaster, and he asked me, he says, if Jesus came to your door today and you could do anything you wanted with him, anything, go anywhere, do anything, whatever, what would what would that be? What would you do? And I teared up. I mean, I teared up bad, and but my answer was basically was I would open the door and I would ask him to touch me. And the reason I want him to touch me is I want him to heal my pain and my paralysis. And then I want to go walk with him. That's why I want to be healed. I want to just walk with him and look over what the Lord made. Look over this earth. Look over from a hill and just look at what I can see. And tell him in my own words, from my own mouth, how grateful I am and how thankful I am to have been alive and even been through what I'd been through. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change this. And and I know that he knows what I'm thinking. We I believe he believes every thought we ever have and ever we're going to have. He knows it ahead of time, but at the same time, I want to tell him out of my own mouth. So I'm very grateful to have had what I've had and be able to get around. I mean, I'm still able to run my power wheelchair up a ramp and get in a van, and I can, at this point yet, I can still, and it's going to go away. I can move to a seat, and I use hand controls, and I drive my van to where I'm going, and then I got to go through a lot more pain and get back in my wheelchair and run the ramp out and get out and you know but I'm grateful I can do that. I'm thankful.
Yeah.
It's like, and a lot of people would be angry that they had to do that, but I'm glad I can do it. And after I broke my neck and was never supposed to move, Jeannie, I was not supposed to ever walk, or I was never supposed to move. They didn't think I'd move anything from my shoulders down, but I never gave up. I never gave up. I didn't quit. And God was with me. I think the power of prayer lifted a lot of what I did. I'm an overachiever. I'm an overdoer, and I didn't quit. And I finally walked. And I walked for about 15 or 16 years, 17 years, with leg braces and a cane. But I got around. I traveled the world, literally. And then I got to the point I had brainstem surgeries and stuff because I've got something in my neck that's real bad, and
Mm.
and that put me on a walker, and I was on a walker for 17 or 18 years, and then it got worse after they replaced my left knee for the third time. That was the 16th surgery on that knee, but that and the paralysis kept getting worse, and so now I've been in a power wheelchair since then. So that's been 7 or 8 years, and so I mean, I have nowhere to go but down. I'm not going to get any better, I don't think. And I try. I work at it. I mean, you know, I work my hand out. I work my arm out the best I can. But it just, there again, you can achieve what you believe to a large degree. And when I had some doctors meet up here at Seton Brain and Spine in Austin, the doctor that was led the group, Dr. Jim Rose, um, they asked him. There were about 25 doctors from other countries too, and they asked him, "I've got a thing in my neck called syringomyelia, which is like a plug in a cord, like a golf ball in a hose. It doesn't let the liquid through. And then I've
Okay.
got a thing called myomalacia, which is like using a hair dryer on the hose. It makes it softer and thinner and makes it even tighter. And then I've also got a thing called Brown-Séquard syndrome, which is it's too much to explain, but there's probably only about 40 to 60 people in the United States right now out of our entire population that has all three things.
Oh
So
my
it's very,
goodness.
very unusual. But they asked Jim Rose, why do you think he's a, this is 10 years ago. I'm not supposed to be able to move from my shoulders down, nothing. And I can still move, my left arm anyhow. And he said, well, first of all, he's stubborn and he's a Marine. And he doesn't have any more sense than that because he was Army, so he had to give me a hard time. And, and he's just going to keep pushing at it. And they asked me, and I said, I, I believe that as long as I believe that I can move and I'm willing to continue to try and push ahead and not quit, I will continue to move. But the day that I decide that I can't do it anymore, that I'm done, I think I'll probably be paralyzed. So I
Mm.
think I think it's mind over matter that we mentioned before.
Yeah, that's an amazing thought though, because I was my next question to you was going to be like, you're in your mid 70s and mostly paralyzed as by your own account here, and but you have no plans to stop. So what's
Mm.
next? What does Jay Setchell have in the works, and what does the next chapter look like for you?
Well, I mean, I'm a partner, sizable partner in a company that we're national. We just went international into 48 other countries. Um, I've got twins that we're raising, that are 8 years old. We've had since they were 3 weeks old, and we adopted them at 3 years.
Amazing.
Um, I've got other interests. I enjoy doing the podcast. I think I'm going to probably end up writing another book. Only something like instead of asking why, ask why not, because I think that that's a thing that people should say. It's like you can't do that. Yeah, why not? Why no? So I don't know, but I you know, and I'm getting requests for doing some. Speaking tours, things like that. But there again, my paralysis and pain kind of restrict that. So I don't know whether I could do it virtual or whatnot. But I'm not going to quit. I'll keep doing something. I'll keep looking at other people to help and things to do and keep moving forward.
You've got a full agenda there, a full plan. And I'm going to throw this in because I just found it out yesterday. Since we had trouble with Riverside that day, I shouldn't knock them
Okay.
out there, but that's what happened. Uh,
It is what
so
happened.
yeah, so you have a what is that car again? I'm trying to find it on my phone. This
Oh,
gorgeous, gorgeous car that you
s-
have.
it's a 67 Shelby GT500. Yeah, that's in the museum. Yep,
Unbelievable.
it's in Miles Through Time Museum up in Clarksville, Georgia, is
Oh,
where it's at. So I've had it 30 years. It was in the '67 Shelby television ad, and Carol Shelby's wife drove it, and she had it for a year after they used the car. They leased it back for 2 years. The day after it was made, it was sold to a company right across the fence because they had to go by the laws and stuff, and then they
hmm
leased it back for 2 years. And anyhow, but yeah,
gorgeous
it's
car.
one of one. It's one of one. Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you.
Well, you had sent me the video too, and that was Shelby in there with that. That's the
Yes,
commercial that's embedded
yes,
in that video. Oh,
yes.
wow.
And I can send you one with Carol, his or Sue Shelby, his wife, driving it too down the interstate. I've got that on video.
Oh, that's great. I love
But
seeing that. This
but you
that's
like you,
just you're so multidimensional. Marine now I see you got this museum quality car. It's just primo. It's just like beautiful green. They don't that green. They haven't used that green in a long time
they
on
haven't.
anything.
It was called dark moss green. Let me see if I can find a picture of it real
Absolutely
quick.
gorgeous.
Dark moss green, and it was A2 racing green. In England, they call it. This is what you're.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if that's coming
yeah.
across,
There you
but
go. You can see it definitely.
there you go.
That is gorgeous. And
But
so you have done so much. I'm just so impressed with everything you've done. And you're such a phenomenal person. And now
well,
we've come to the part of our show when we need to transition over and play our two truths and a lie with you, Jay. Are you
oh,
ready to do that?
not really, but we'll go for it.
Okay. So the rules of the game are for those listening, the guest has provided me with three headlines that are about his life. Two are true. One is a lie or exaggerated truth or just some twisted facts. But mostly they're interesting and they show another depth to Jay. So let's go over these and I'll read the headlines first, then I'll guess, and then you go over the stories, but don't tell us which one's the lie. I say this to everybody every time. Do not tell the lie, which one's the lie till the end, but then they always notoriously go, well, that one was true. So don't do that.
Okay.
All right, here we go. This episode is sponsored by Rebel 180, the home of brave pivots and fresh starts. Rebel 180 is all about helping you rediscover what's possible when you stop settling and start listening to that little tug inside that says, life can be different. Whether you're navigating a career shift, dreaming about a new direction, or standing at the crossroads wondering if it's time for your own 180-degree turn, Rebel 180 is a reminder you don't need permission to change your story. And now, as we open the door to our second sponsor, we're stepping into the world of tech. Simple Socket Print, the lightweight, blazing fast label print solution designed for those who need reliability without the bloat. With version 1.5, you get instant printing in milliseconds, fully maintained print sequence, and automatic base 64 decoding, all without needing print driver installs. If you're running SQL Server 2016 or newer, Simple Socket Print 1.5 drops right in and gets to work. Keep your workflow simple. Keep your label printing fast with Simple Socket Print. Thank you to our sponsors. So, the number one story, Jay logged 800 hours of flight time before joining the U.S. Marines. However, he was 18 before he saw his first taxi cab. Okay. I'm beginning to think that one's true, but I'm not guessing yet. Number two, after dying 3 times and multiple other near-death experiences, Jay owes his beliefs, resilience, and so much more to his parents and God. Well, that one I can believe. So number three, at one time, Jay was an astronaut. All right, if I had to guess which one's a lie, I'm going to say it's number three, but don't laugh. You have to tell us each of those stories
Whoa. Well,
before you tell us which one's the lie.
oh, well, number one, my dad flew that's why I started flying when I was 2 weeks old. He told me that they put me they wrapped me up and stuck me in the passenger seat and seat belted me in and took me for an airplane ride. So I flew my whole life. Or,
Oh,
well,
wow.
I flew and, you know, my dad would say, okay, the cattle are fed, supper's not ready. Let's go up and fly for an hour. So we go get the plane out and go fly. But, so much of the planes we had were used for agriculture. They were like tools. They were like a combine. You only got them out when you used them for spraying. We would do that quite a bit. And so it just learned it was natural. But so I had 800 hours before I went in the Marine Corps, and ended
Mm.
up with about 1,600 total. And I never had my pilot's license. We didn't have. You needed to go what they call through ground school, and that was about 80 miles away and 160-mile round trip. And then of course, my, I was able to move my legs enough with leg braces that I could do that. And but once I broke my neck into paralysis, I couldn't do it anymore. So,
Oh,
yep,
okay.
800 hours before that. And it was I enjoyed it. I loved it. I I've got pictures of my dad over here with the planes and stuff on the wall and stuff. But and then number two, after dying and multiple other near-death experiences, my own beliefs and resilience. Oh, very much. I mean, if it wasn't for my parents and raising the way I was, I I owe so much to them. It's so much, and and we did Sunday school. We never missed. I had perfect attendance in Sunday school. Not that I really learned a lot. I think now that I look back, but I probably did when I was, there going through it, and I learned the value of there again community of the Lord of of the value of God, the value of prayer, the value of so many different values, and and I think that gets back to my beliefs, and it it, it leaves me, it's kind of like, you know, God being or Jesus being reborn, which is coming up here for Easter, that a good time to say it. I mean, He's back living. We have a living Lord, and that's resilience. That's never giving up, never quitting, and every difficult thing you go through, everything you have happen, good or bad, you know, um, gives you a resilience, it gives you some, um, it adds to your experience, if you will, and your belief. So, and number three, yeah, that was just a no, and I just thought I wanted to be an astronaut, but I wasn't an astronaut. But I was around back at the time, and I kind of came up with that because I remember when John Glenn launched into, well, he didn't go into, no, John Glenn went into orbit. Who went up first?
So you're
Uh,
telling us that one's a lie before?
oh, I thought I was supposed to.
No,
Okay,
at the
well,
end, but now we know. You weren't an
okay.
astronaut. You just wanted to be.
Well, I didn't think anybody was going to call into your show and tell you which one was wrong. No, no,
No,
but
just me. I had to see if I get it right. So I think I got it right. Hey.
well, it was, I remember laying in the back pasture with my dad and looking at the old constellations go over before the jets were flying, and um, then the jets came out and it was like, they left the contrail and it would disappear behind them, which, speaking of that, goes back to seeing my first taxi cab. My first time I saw a cab was up in Chicago, and I was going up to, to go into the Marine Corps. We never had taxis, not out in a little farm. Kind of like, you mentioned you were raised in a very small town too, and they didn't have taxis. I didn't know what that was. Well, I mean, I would see it because it says taxi on top of it, and they were yellow
Yeah.
back in the old day, the checker cars. But yeah, that's a thing.
Well, you're a multidimensional person, and I'm just going to throw in here. You could have put the story that you build houses. My goodness,
Did I what?
that you build houses. So you didn't even put that one in there. Just, but for
Oh, the
those
building house.
listening,
Yeah, we built
you're a
houses.
custom builder.
We did we built custom homes for about 6 years. We did quite a few. I mean, we did a lot actually, but we built them very very well. Also, before that, another business I had was we did. graphics and trade show booths that went all around the world for people like ExxonMobil. Black and Decker was a household. They did about 3 million a year with us,
Woo,
and
that's nice.
we did Anadarko Petroleum. We did stuff for. We would do business cards for you, but we also would say you were going to go someplace and do a small trade show. We could make a small trade show booth, just something small. Doesn't have to be big. But for some of those people, they'd spend, oh gosh, that's been 30 years ago. They were spending 150, $200,000 just on a trade show booth and all the graphics and everything we did with
Right,
it and the giveaways and such. So, yeah, but it's all interesting. And the interesting thing I think out of it too, Jeannie, is it's always helping people. It helps
right,
people get ahead. It made a better thing. In the building houses, the thing I really enjoyed that was we built smaller homes and mid-sized homes. We built a couple of big ones, but we built small and we built them like we would want to move into them, like they were ours. So we built them with the highest degree of quality. We built them like the Marine Corps would. We built them
right.
solid. We built them good, but about 70% of the homes we got were by referral, and then some of them we built. Some people we built for their kids, or for the young people we built for their parents or their grandparents. But it kind of started out for the reason you went smaller to mid-size is people that are downsizing, getting out of their big homes into smaller homes, or widows and widowers, or people that have a small family or going to start a family. They wanted something that was really nice. And I've been in multi-million dollar homes that are junk. They're terrible.
Right.
They're, I don't know how they sell them, but it was. But the thing that I liked, that one thing I want to say, just is because of my paralysis and my disabilities, or my being differently abled, gave us an insight. And my wife she did all the plans, did all the drawings. We did everything in house, 100% in house, and she would design, and we make maximum use of space. So you had if you had a 1,700 square foot house, you could use 1,695 square feet of it. There was 5 foot that
Oh,
maybe was,
that's very nice.
you know, well,
And you
because
had a lot of storage too, I guess.
lots of
That's what
storage,
everybody screams about.
storage, and well, and garages. I saw there the other day. Somebody makes a garage. It says including a two-car garage, 19 by 20 feet. 19 by our garages were 24 by 26.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
we're
was,
like squeezing into ours right now.
yeah, yeah. You
I
can
have to
barely.
go sideways.
It's terrible. It's
At
and
least I can drive right, I
yeah,
guess. I did
but
run into the garage door one time.
well, and there again, a lot of people do mostly a 16-foot door. We put in 18-foot doors. That way you can drive your truck in here, you drive your car here. You don't have to worry about it. But the thing was, being disabled, I was able to know that, I would say, we're talking and you tell me that your husband's has a bum leg. Okay, is he on a walker by chance, or do you anticipate that? Because what we can do is we'll put a ramp in out here, and we'll put a ramp in from the garage to the house. So down the road, as you age and as things maybe get worse, or maybe they don't, it's not going to hurt. And besides that, if you have a refrigerator delivered, or you have somebody come visit that has an issue, they can use
Oh,
it.
they
It's
like
not going to
that.
hurt. Yeah, and
Yeah.
instead of doorknobs, we always use the door handles, because even if you've
Oh,
got
that's great.
arthritis or paralysis, or say you come home with 2 bags of groceries, you can take your elbow and open the door up. You don't have to set the bag down, turn the knob, open the. So
Right.
it kind of it gave us an edge, but we built the best, and our
Yeah.
product was our best salesman, and
Well,
we never had.
you're such a wonderful person and a wonderful guest and so talented. And I'm just
Oh,
really thankful that you came on the show. And I know
oh,
people are going to want to get in touch with you, so I'm going to scroll down here and show another sheet where it shows all the information you can do as a listener to get in touch with Jay. Um, he
oh,
had a great quote, which he sort of said at the beginning.
oh! I did. I see.
Yeah.
I got to get my glass on. I see.
Sweat dries, blood clots, and broken bones heal. Suck it up.
Suck it
That
up.
sounds like a Marine.
Hey, it's the way it is. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, if you want to get in touch with Jay, He's got a great website, neverquittrying.com. I like that name. And he's on YouTube. He's got a lot of podcasts out there he's done as a guest, and Facebook page. And look for his book, A Story That Will Stay With You Forever. So
it's I had a comment from a lady the other day. It's numbered 1 in 2 different areas on Amazon, so
nice.
It's done pretty good. But I got a note from a lady through my website the other day. She's 88 years old, and she said that her grandson gave her son the book. He read it, gave it to his mother, 88, and she said, she had lost her husband when she was 83, and she just kind of was really winding down. She said, I read that book, and I want to let you know, thank you, because you've given me a whole new idea and thought, and you helped me find some resilience that I've lost.
Oh, that's
reasons why I should stay here. And now I'm planning for my 95th birthday. And she's 88.
Amazing. So that's a real big compliment to you.
Well, it makes you feel good. It's still helping people.
Yeah.
Jeannie, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, it is all about helping people, and it looks like you've done a lot, and I know your kids are getting a lot of help from you, and you still got a lot they're only, 8 you said? So you still got a lot of years left.
I'm going to be dead before they get too far into life, but, you do what you can while you can.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. So.
Well, it's been wonderful having you on, and for those watching, I hope that you will tune in next week for another amazing guest. And this is your host, Jeannie Anderson, the Admiral of the Unexpected. I wish you smooth sailing. Bye for now.
Hey, thanks, Jeannie.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me on Project Candor, where the doors are open, the stories are unexpected, and the treasure is always real. If today's episode made you laugh or think, follow the show and share it with your crew. Otherwise, I might just make you swab the deck. I'm Jeannie Anderson, your Admiral of the Unexpected. See you on the next voyage.